Okay, welcome to another Wolftime gaming video. In this one we're going to be looking at basing, specifically a desert base that we used on our 30k space walls fairly recently. It looks really good and it's really simple to do. You can see we've got laid out just on the desk in front of us a few bits and pieces that we need to actually create these bases. So we need the bases themselves to start with. Very simple really. And for basic material for these we've got some of this cork sheeting, lots of different broken up bits in there, so it should be fairly easy to pick out a few bits to go on the bases. We've got some of the a fine sand. There is a little bit of coarse sand in there as well, just to go around these pieces when we got them done. To paint it up itself, or rather to actually, before we get to that stage, you've got the PVA glue to glue all this down. Got the Xandridus spray to give it a good spray straight over the top. You don't need to use this, but it is, I do find that it's the quickest way of doing the base in itself. You've then got some of these grass tufts that you can find on eBay. Really easy to use. Just pull it off the paper, stick it on the base, job done. Really easy. Little pair of scissors just to cut those up if we need to. We have got some super glue here. I always like to pop a little bit of super glue just on these tufts just to hold them in place. And finally, an old frayed brush just to be able to move the PVA around the bases. So I'll clear this out the way and we'll get started. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is go through all these cork pieces here to find good pieces just to stick down on those bases there. Some nice flat ones that the Marines can either stand on, or we could go for some smaller ones that they can stand around. So I'll go through, have a search through all this now, because I'm sure you don't want to watch me do that, and then we'll come back. Okay, so I found some bases. These are the Terminators we're going to use. We're going to put them on the Tartaros Terminators for these particular bases. They're nice big bases and easy to use. So you can see I've popped a couple of little ones just on there that these guys can stand around or stand inside. And then there's these two here, the larger ones that we can actually have them stood atop of. Just to stick these down, what I'm actually going to use is a little bit of this Army Painter super glue, purely because I just find it so much easier to use when sticking these pieces down. It really holds well, and you know it's not going to break apart. So you just pop these onto the model there. So you've got the two just with a crack in the middle, so they look a little bit like a desert. Well, the ground's actually pulled apart, it's dried up as such. And then exactly the same with the other base here. Nice, quick and easy. Just pop it straight on the model there. Within literally minutes this stuff's dry. It's so good when using it for basing, especially with this cork. It just soaks it up and dries really fast. It's brilliant. So there we go, that's those pieces on there. So we'll give that a few minutes to dry and then we'll come back and we'll move on to the sand. Okay, so as promised, we're now moving on to the sand with this, and you've got this like coarse grit mixed in with a bit of fine sand there. It's a nice little mix that I've used to do these basing. Pretty much any type of base I use with these. So to start off, just get a bit of PVA glue straight on the top there. Use your older brush, your frayed brush, or don't use your new hobby brushes, because this will wreck them essentially. All we do is push it all around the model there. Don't worry about getting it on the bottom of the cork. It all adds to the natural look of the sand. You will get sand bits and pieces on top of these rocks and things. Anyway, it's not like they're going to be perfect in nature. So okay, so we wipe off all the PVA glue that we've got around the edges there. Just wipe it onto your mat or anywhere you want if you do get anything over. And then all we do is pop that into this sand here, shake it around, dip it in, give it a little bit of a tap just on your work surface, wipe around the edge just with your thumb. It'll remove any of the extra bits and pieces that may be there. There we go, and there we have it. That's the beginning of the basing. So we'll do that on the other four that we've got here, and then we'll come back. Okay, so there we have it, guys. You've got those 5 bases now, all covered in all the basic material you need. You can see how fast that was just to get it to this stage. Now there is a little bit of time we need to give it now to dry, and we need all of that PVA glue to go rock hard before we put any paint on there. So we're going to leave this for a good few hours now, and then we'll come back to it. Okay guys, so we've given that plenty of time to dry now, and as you can see, the bases are rock hard. You've got all this gravel is nicely stuck down with the PVA. We've given it a spray of the Xandri dust as well, and that's just finished it off nicely. So you can see all the bases are completely coated now in Xandri dust. You can do whatever colour you like with that. I like the Xandri dust because it looks a bit more like a natural colour, natural dirt colour for me. So the next stage is to dry brush and to highlight the bases themselves. I'm going to use Flayed One Flesh for this. I know it's a bit of a strange one to use, but it's a really bright colour, and it makes the stone and the ground look really bleached, which is ideal for deserts and for sandy areas. So do that same way as we've done in the past. Just use your dry brush. For this I've got the Army Painter dry brush here. Just wipe off as much of the paint as you can, but you want to get the paint all over your brush essentially. So you've got a complete covering on the brush itself, but it's dry, which I know sometimes doesn't make sense, but if you just copy this technique, it'll work. And then all we're doing is we're going straight over the top, just catching all those raised areas. So you can see it's highlighting straight away. And you're getting all that really defined area on all the base there, and it does look like the top has been bleached as such, which is exactly what happens in desert areas. So there you go. That's the first one. You can see in comparison to the rest, it is a lot lighter. So what we'll do, I'll work through that now, and yeah, and then we'll carry on. Okay, and there we have it. That's all the dry brushing done now, and you can see we're already getting that really nice sort of defined areas on the actual bases themselves. They're looking a little bit more natural now, like a real sort of stone, deserty area, sandy area, or whatever you want to do really. So we'll give that a little while to dry, and then we'll move on to the little grass tufts here. Okay, so there we have it. They're all dry now. Didn't take very long to dry at all. As with dry brushing, you're hardly putting any moisture on there, so usually dries pretty quickly. Now, to add a little bit more life to it, we're going to use these grass tufts. You can pick these up off eBay, or try and even make them yourselves if you want to. I've just got them off eBay, and what I've done, I've already started cutting them up a little bit, because I find with using the grass tufts themselves, they're all very similar to each other, so it's best to have them different sizes and things. So you can see here I've cut a few up, just so they're a little bit different. So to start off, all you do, you just get a hold of the grass tuft, just try and push it all together as such, because you'll find that when we use these tufts, that the longer grass especially sort of falls down to the side. So try and hold it all together, and I'll show you a way to try and keep that in place as well in a second. But we'll pop these tufts on here first anyway. What I always try to do as well is, as the grass falls to one side, I always try and put it against something, like, see, you put it against this rock here, so it almost forces it to go upwards rather than staying flat. So you see a couple on there. Just pop another little one just on here as well. And there, that's the first one done. We'll pop that one aside. You see, all you're doing, you're just picking out a few little places and you're just popping them down, getting that sort of the tuft itself in place. So I'll work through these now, and then we'll come back. I'll show you the final stages. Okay, so there we have it. We've got all those grass tufts in place now. To hold them in place a little bit more, and just to try and keep the actual tufts together as such, because you'll find it all fray off. I do pop a little bit of this super glue just at the base of them as well. It does just hold them all in place. You don't have to worry too much. You could probably use a PVA glue or anything like that for these really, and give it all a good spray with PVA, but I do find this super glue, I know it works essentially. If you have any problems like with this bigger one here, what I've just done is popped a little bit of the glue down, and then I'll just move the grass backwards, because what you'll find is the super glue will start reacting with it really quickly and start hardening off really fast, and that way it just makes it all stick up, and you can see that looks really, really cool. So there we go. We'll give the super glue a couple of minutes to dry now. Okay, so we're on to the final stage now of this mini little project that we've got here. So final thing to do is to paint around the edge of the bases. Now you don't have to do this, you can leave them this sandry dust colour. We do need to make sure you've got a decent coverage. You can see there I've got quite a black area as we go around. It's not quite gone on, but what I like to do is go around the edges of all my bases with a black paint anyway, just to try and make the base pop from the table that you're actually on. To do this, I'm going to use this matte black from Army Painter, just in the little dropper pot here. I'm going to pop a little bit onto my palette, just off screen. I've got an older hobby brush that I use for this type of thing. Really, just mix it with a little bit of water. And all you do is go around the edge of the bases, just like so. And it does just make the model pop and the base pop from the table itself, and it looks so effective when it's done, especially with these lighter colour bases. If you do a darker base, it might not work as well, because you've got there won't be that contrast there between the two colours essentially. But especially with a lighter desert base, you pop this black around the edges here, and you can already see there how much of a difference that makes, how much it brings out the colour of the base in itself that you've worked on. So I'll do this now, and then that'll be it. Okay, there we have it. We've got all those bases done now, and you can see already just by looking at the bases themselves that how much they stand out compared to the cutting mat that we've just got there. And that'll be the same when you get them on the table as well. As soon as you get your stuff out there, I'm all about terrain, and I'm all about having the terrain looking really, really good, but at the same time you want your models to stand out, because that's what you've spent a lot of the time on. And this really helps, just basing them nicely. Popping a little bit of black around the edges will make it stand out compared to the rest of the table really, really, really well. So there we have it. That's the video over really. We've got everything done on there. All that's left to do is paint the models and pop your models on there. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Remember to like the video if you did enjoy it. Comment, ask any questions you want to ask, and make sure you subscribe to see any more content. Thank you very much for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time.